Hi, everybody, and welcome to another lesson in Tanya. Tonight, our fourth lesson, I believe, in chapter 37. I hope to do a lot of reading. Chapter 37, yes. I hope to do a lot of reading. So before we start the reading, let me just give you an introduction and few points the rabbi wants to address. Until now, we spoke about serving God and our purpose in life through mitzvot and the study of Torah, which is called holiness, pureness. For example, I study Torah. I pray to God. This is pure holiness, and that's how we connect to Hashem. The rabbi will now address other areas in which we connect to God. And they are a mundane, or as Kabbalistic terminology calls it, klipat nuga, the nuga shell. We started discussing it last time. I just want to summarize. Nuga, I shared with you that when God created the universe, there are three areas in which everything was created: holiness, pure, good; evil, dark, the opposite; and the middle ground. The middle ground, we call it the gray area. The gray area can turn into positive or the opposite. Later on, we're going to read in this chapter that the purpose of our life is not to deal with the holiness, but to deal with the gray area, to take the gray area and purify it and make it holy. Because the holiness is something the neshama, the soul, already had before. That's not what the reason it was sent into this dungeon called universe. The other point the rabbi is going to make is that when Mashiach will arrive, the gray area will be completely gone, removed. There will be only pure good. So the other two areas, evil, which is temporary, or gray, which will become included in holiness, will become holy. And the rabbi will address it in the four categories of the creation: inanimate, vegetation, plants, animals, and humans. All possess the gray area, and all of it will become holy. The goal is for us to reach to that point of Mashiach time by ourselves, taking the gray areas in those categories and make them holy. So what the outcome is, if I want to serve God and God says, do not give tzedakah with stolen money, or God says, do not eat a certain food even though it provides a lot of nutrition, there is no way we can engage with darkness, with impurity, and turn it into holiness. So anything that came out as a result of the energy or the positivity I created with something that's forbidden will have no credit and no impact. We will address that in detail soon. The only way for me to serve God is to take money that I sweated and worked hard or received as a gift, or to take kosher food and use it for service of God or to beautify the universe. That's when I take it and make it holy. That's point number one the rabbi is going to talk about. So therefore, my purpose in life is not just studying Torah, but performing the mitzvot in every mundane activity, and every mundane activity possible in this universe. So when I go to sleep, I can do it in a holy way. When I engage in business, when I raise a family, when I enjoy a meal, all that can be done in pureness, just like every other way of serving God. In that way, Judaism is totally opposite of every other religion. Without getting to details, not only we do not run away from the universe in order for us to become holy, But the only way for me to become holy and connected to God is through the universe. As the Rebbe is going to explain, it's impossible for the soul to connect to God without the body. Because the body eats, the body earns a living, the body engages in a relationship with a spouse and children, the body respects parents, the body does all that. So if I want to connect to God, I must engage through the body. And keeping a healthy body and using my body appropriately is the way to connect to God. Other religion would say you have to avoid the universe in different forms. I don't want to delve into it because that's not my expertise. But they are just skipping the universe. Avoid the tests. Avoid all the challenges. Judaism say that's not a challenge. That's a platform that helps you to elevate yourself into connecting to God. That's the first point the Rabbi is going to talk about. The Rabbi is going to get into details that when God wanted us to engage with the universe, he gave us two categories of engagement. One is called the positive, 248 positive acts. We don't have all of them. I shared with you on many occasions. The maximum is maybe 50, 55 that we can engage in a positive way, like keeping Shabbat, helping the poor, getting married. If someone don't want to share a life with a spouse, getting divorced. There are many commandments. Then you have 365 prohibitive commandments. They are not negative commandments, they are service of God by disengaging. So for example, God says, don't mix milk and meat together. If I have an opportunity and I stay away, I served God. By serving God, I have elevated energy of my life and connected it to God. Why is it important? Kabbalah explains that the 365 prohibitive commandments correspond to the 365 veins. Why is it compared to veins? By the way, the 248 correspond to body parts, the limbs, right? So we're going to put aside the body limbs for a moment. Let's talk about the veins. The veins include muscles and bloodstream, where the blood goes. In my day-to-day life, if I want to live well, I have to go and be checked by a doctor. Is that correct? The doctor will give you a physical, and the doctor will tell you, stay away from unhealthy food, stay away from an unhealthy environment, air, don't consume, don't smoke, don't act, sleep well, right? What happens if I eat unhealthy food? It goes into my bloodstream and poisoned it. Is that correct? So the doctor's instruction is there to prevent from all of that to happen. Before we talk about the positive, what yet to do, the purpose of, in order for me to guard myself and live a healthy life, there are many restrictions by which I need to follow. By the way, it is not restricted only to food or air, but it also restricted into neighbors, language, engagement with people. The Talmud tells us that there's a debate, which is something a person should distance himself. And one rabbi said, a bad neighbor. Because if you have a bad neighbor, they say to you, let's have a party. And once they have a party, not kosher food, not healthy food, etc. Also, Rambam writes, Ki Adamu Medini. Humans are a social creature. And therefore, what it means is not only we can't live ourselves, but we are impacted directly from our society and environment. So if I have a friend who is not restricted in his language, if I have a co-worker who does not respect employer, customers, etc., it impacts the person next to him. So we need to be careful. This is common sense. Do we have disagreement on that, Ali? Huh?
Took 12 minutes, not bad.
No disagreement. Thank you, Ali. So, says the Rebbe, God gave us a soul. The soul is very pure, as we say every morning, and therefore it needs to be guarded. Just like my mind should be clean, my emotions and heart should be pure, my veins should not be contaminated with poisonous food, overeating, etc. The same is the soul. That's why the 365 prohibitions or prohibitive commandments are there to guard the soul, and therefore they are compared in the physical human to the body veins, which veins contain the blood. Yes.
The soul is in the blood.
Huh?
According to Judaism, the soul is in the blood.
The soul is in the blood. That's what I'm saying. Just like the blood. That's the point. So one rabbi explains that actually, which soul is in the blood? The animal soul. The animal soul is klipat nuga. In other words, the gray area, the holy soul is in the brains. When God, or the right side of the heart. Thank you. In other words, when we are talking about the 365 prohibitive commandments, they are there to elevate the nuga, not the godly soul. As we will discover, my purpose and you, each one of your purpose in life is not to elevate and improve your godly soul, but rather to improve the universe. And therefore, the universe, not the soul. And therefore, all the majority of our life is engaging the klipat nuga, the natural soul, not the godly soul. The godly soul is only a conduit that connects us to God and infuses us with the ability to serve God. Did you understand that? That's why the body veins are compared as parallel to the 365 prohibitive commandments. That's the second point. The third point, the rabbi is going to, and there are many other details as we read, I'll share. The rabbi is going to share with us that there are a very meticulous plan when God created the universe. Excuse me, and it's divided into 4 steps. Anybody is familiar with 4 steps in Judaism? Any example? Anyone? 4 universes, thank you. Anything else? 4 categories of creation, right? The universe is created by inanimate, plants, animals, and humans. Anything else? On Passover, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
4 cups, 4 sons, 4 questions, 4 types of redemption. Anybody familiar with 4 types of redemption? In the Torah. Are you familiar with 4 cups of languages of redemption? Why do we drink 4 cups of wine? Because there are 4 types of redemption. There are 4 stages of redemption. Vega'alti, ve'itzalti, ve'lakachti, ve'otzeti. God uses 4 different words when it comes to redemption because each one is a different step of redemption. The Rebbe is going to tell us that in order for me to achieve redemption, there are 4 steps. One is to realize that every single act counts, the micro. So if right now I can study Torah instead of engage in idle talk, I have purified my soul. 1 act is what's required. By the way, the Rebbe established 10 different mitzvot to campaign to influence Judaism, Jewish people. And the Rebbe spoke about single mitzvot. For example, and it's fascinating because the Rebbe did not look at large mitzvot. The Rebbe did not say, I'm not here to say it's not right, keep Shabbat. 10 mitzvah campaign. One of them is lighting Shabbat candles. The Rebbe didn't say, let's keep the whole Shabbat. But the Rebbe says, light Shabbat candles, one mitzvah. The Rebbe did not say, study Torah all day. The Rebbe says, one of the mitzvah campaign is study Torah. Open up once a day. If you cannot, as often as you can, and study a little Torah, even if it's a couple of minutes. The Rebbe says, keep books, Jewish books in the house. That's one of the mitzvah campaigns. There are 10 mitzvah campaigns in which, so the Rebbe is not talking about coming to synagogue or praying morning prayers. But the Rebbe says, put on tefillin. It's 2 minutes. That's it. In other words, it's based, the Rebbe did not say the reason, and the Rebbe explained that each one of the commandment, the mitzvah campaign, mezuzah is one of them, is based on a reason, and the Rebbe explained the reasons. It's beyond the scope of our discussion. But the point is that the first stage for us to know is every single mitzvah counts. Do not underestimate one step closer to God. That's one. Number two, the Rebbe wants us to know that every single mitzvah leads to the change of the godly soul and my entire purpose. In other words, I'm sure you heard that in the ocean, when you have a ship and you change it by a half a degree, in 24 hours, it will be 270 degrees from a destination. One half. In other words, it's not about the quantity or the quality, it's the direction. So if I did one mitzvah a day, in 10 days, in 100 days, I have 100 mitzvot. That's the second step. The Rebbe wants us to know that the idea is for us to change our identity. I start with one mitzvah, but that will change me completely. The third is, it will affect the entire Jewish people. I'm hovering over those 4 steps very quick. In other words, realizing every single Jew counts, and therefore, if I do my share to do one extra mitzvah, I am changing myself and I'm impacting the entire Jewish people. Number 4, it impacts the entire universe. You can ask, Jewish people are a very small minority. Anybody knows the percentage of Jewish nation in the universe? Huh?
4 or 5 zeros after the decimal point to the right.
0.0002. That's what last time. When we did a mathematician.
Some people were born.
So the chance of you being born in Thailand is 18%. 18%. The chance of you being born Jewish is 0.0002. Can you believe it? On Friday night, anyone who was here, I expanded on that, so I don't want to talk any further. But it's fascinating. So back to our discussion. These are the 4 stages the rabbi is going to talk about. Whenever I do one mitzvah, realize the value, it's a complete project. That will affect me completely. And therefore, it will affect the entire Jewish people, not just me. In other words, when I am a better person, when I'm healthier spiritually, the entire Jewish people are healthier. And the entire Jewish people, a healthy nation, affects the entire universe. We are the guardians of the universe. So when a Jew lives happily in peace within himself, he affects the entire nation. When the entire nation lives in peace and tranquility, it impacts the entire universe. And that will bring Mashiach. When it will happen? When Mashiach is here. That's the state of Mashiach, as the rabbi is going to talk about. So again, and the rabbi is going to talk about numbers. The rabbi is going to talk into 600,000, but hopefully we'll get there. These are the points the rabbi is going to make in the next text. So again, the rabbi is speaking about mundane activities in which we are engaged with throughout the day, majority of the time, is the purpose of my life, by serving God in one of the 248 positive or 365 restrictive. and they are compared to different parts of the body because they serve in similar vein to my soul, when I do that, I need to realize that one action is complete project. It will affect me, it will change me, it will change the nation, and it will change the entire universe. And that's the completeness of the universe. Those 4 stages would lead to God bringing Mashiach, where there will be no darkness and there will be no gray matter. There will be only positivity, only holiness. Let's get to a little bit of text. Bottom of page 503. An additional virtue in mitzvot involving action, aside from the function in elevating one's animal soul mentioned above. Prior to this, the Rabbi was talking about performing mitzvot and studying Torah. Now the Rabbi is talking about mundane activities, going to sleep, going to work, having a relationship, raising a family, etc. The vitalizing soul's energy clothed in the otherness of letters of one's speech in Torah study, prayer, or the like, or the energy clothed in the performance of mitzvot involving action, derives its entire growth and vitality from the blood, which is of klipat nuga, meaning all the food and drink that one has eaten or drunk, in which he have become blood, these were under the dominion of klipat nuga and drew the vitality from it. Now that the person performs a mitzvah with the energy derived from this food and drink, this klipa is transformed from evil to good and is absorbed into holiness by means of the energy of the animal soul that grows from it. That is, the energy nourished by those objects that derive their vitality from this klipa, which has now clothed itself in these letters of Torah and prayer, or in the performance of this mitzvah, which actually constitute the unveiled expression of the inner aspect of God's will, and their vitality, the vitality expended in performing mitzvot, is also absorbed, like the mitzvot themselves, into the blessed Ein Sof light, which is His will as expressed in mitzvot. And with their vitality, the energy of the animal soul is likewise elevated and absorbed into the Ein Sof light. And since the energy necessary for performing mitzvot was applied by food and drink, the vitality of the food and drink is likewise absorbed in the Ein Sof light, together with the mitzvah whose performance it made possible. So the Rabbi is saying, if I made a bracha and I ate kosher, and I go to work, and I work hard, and I put all my energy to perform well, I am elevating the food and the energy I absorbed that gave me the ability to perform into godliness. I took nuga, I took the gray area, and I made it holy. Thereby, all of klipot nuga, which constitutes the vitality of this physical and corporal world as a whole, will ascend as well. When will this come about? The whole neshama, says the Rebbe, the divine soul in all of Israel, which is divided into 600,000 particular offshoots, the standard figure for the members of the Jewish nation, all individual souls being further subdivided into these 600,000 general souls, as will be explained further, will fulfill each individual soul, therefore the 613 mitzvot of Torah. Then, when they will refrain from transgressing the 365 prohibitions to restrain the 365 blood vessels of the animal soul in the body, so that they do not draw nurture or receive vitality by means of such transgression from any one of the 3 completely unclean klipot, from which are derived the 365 biblical permission and the rabbinical prohibitions, their offshoots. And I'm going to continue reading and I'll explain. We are on page 506. Since all that derives its vitality from the three holy unclean klipot cannot rise to holiness, were a Jew to transgress any prohibition and thereby cause the particular blood vessel associated with that prohibition to receive vitality from this klipot, the vitalizing soul could no longer ascend to God, having been tainted by the impurity of the three unclean klipot. And the Rebbe says, for these klipot can never be elevated, but must be nullified and utterly destroyed, as it is written, and I shall banish the unclean spirit from the earth. Similarly, the Rabbi is going to talk about the positive, and then I'll explain the 600,000. Similarly, anything which derives its vitality from them can never ascend to holiness. Therefore, only the observance of all the 365 prohibitions allow the entire vital soul to ascend without any part of it held back by the impurity of this klipot. When furthermore, every individual soul will fulfill also the 248 positive commandments, thereby drawing down the blessed Ein Sof light below, to elevate to him and to bind and unite with him the entire vital soul, which is in the 248 limbs of the body in perfect unity, such as the effect of the mitzvah in uniting the vital animal soul with God, so that they become actually one with him, in accordance with his will, that there be an abode for him in the lower realms. And so great is this unity that they, the limbs of the body with the vitality of the animal soul invested in them, become a chariot to God, as were the patriarchs whose every limb was in total submission to the divine will. Wherefore they are designated as God's chariots, and so will every Jew become a chariot by performing the mitzvot. Once the totality of the vital soul of the community of Israel will become a holy chariot for God, then also the general vitality of this world now is going to the fourth level, which now consists of the Klipat Nuga, will also emerge from its impurity and sickness. The term impurity refers to the evil of the Klipot. Sickness refers to the element of good that Klipa Nuga contain, which is nevertheless the good of Klipa, not holiness, and will ascend to holiness to become a chariot for God upon the revelation of his glory in the world to come. And then all flesh will behold godliness together, and he will appear over them with the majestic beauty of his power, and the glory of God will fill the whole world. Israel will see eye to eye, the human eye will see the truth of godliness, just as the supernal eye sees it, just as they saw at the giving of the Torah. Says the Rebbe, of which it is written, you showed yourself so that it is be known that God is the Lord. Literally, the four-letter divine name, Elohim, that is, despite the concealment of the four-letter divine name, which denotes Hashem's limitless power, by name Elohim, which signifies God's self-limitation, it is the former that will pervade all existence. There is nothing else beside him. Let me just stop here because the Rabbi is going to continue on about, you know what, let's continue a little bit more. But whereas the revelation of Sinai lasted only a short time, the revelation in the future will be permanent. Through this ascent of Klipat Nuga to holiness, the three unclean Klipot will be utterly annihilated and nullified. Why? For the nurture and vitality which they now receive from holiness come to them only by way of Klipat Nuga, the intermediary between them. Klipat Nuga, containing both good and evil, is the medium through which these Klipot, which are completely evil, receive the vitality from godliness, which is completely good. When Klipat Nuga ascends to godliness, the impure Klipot, no longer having any access to God, vitality ceases to exist. It follows, therefore, that the purpose of the Messianic era and of their resurrection, namely the revelation of his glory and divine divinity, and the banishment of the spirit of impurity from the earth, is entirely dependent on our drawing down his godliness and the blessed Ein Sof light upon all the 248 limbs of the vital soul of all Israel, for by way of the vital soul, all the world will be suffused with godliness, and this is achieved by the vital soul's performance of all the 248 positive mitzvot. And this purpose is also dependent on our banishing the spirit of impurity, that is the three impure klipot from the vital soul of all Israel. For by being banished from the vital soul, the spirit of impurity is banished from the entire world, and this is accomplished by the vital soul's observance of all 365 prohibitive mitzvot, thus preventing its 365 blood vessels from drawing nurture from the spirit of impurity. Did you understand what we just studied? No? Ali? Are you able to follow what we studied?
What are the three levels of impurity, Rabbi?
Okay, so let's summarize again. It's a repeat of what I said. The rabbi is going to talk about the 600,000 souls next. But what the rabbi wants to say, the universe God created and placed us there is because we have a purpose. And my purpose is not my soul, but rather the universe. It is not like going to work. When I go to work, even though I am a great accomplisher, I'm a doctor, I'm an Uber driver, I'm a teacher, you might think that I'm there to teach children. You might think I'm there to take people from point A to point B as an Uber driver. But for me, why am I an Uber driver? Because I want to make a living. So it's all about me. Judaism tells us, Tanya tells us, a whole new revelation. You know why God put us here? Not for the soul. It is a selfless act of serving the universe and God, improving the universe, making this place better. Not what's in it for me. Remember the President Kennedy, John F. Kennedy says, ask not what the country can do for me, ask what can I do for my country. It is a verbatim from Judaism. Tikkun Olam, exactly. So when I am a doctor or an attorney or a realtor, even though I do a lot of good, at the end of the day, if I find a better way to get me more, that's where I'll find myself. If I realize it's not good enough for me because I can do something better with my life to earn more, I am going to change. Judaism tells us my soul came for the universe, not for me. The outcome that I will gain by serving God and coming close to God is a byproduct. It's not the real purpose. Ethics of our fathers in 2nd chapter tells us, schar mitzvah, mitzvah. The reward of a mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. I'm serving God. There is no greater reward. Imagine the king is visiting and he's offering you an opportunity to serve. Wouldn't you jump? It's not about how much am I going to get, how much time you're going to, how much money you're going to give me. It's about the ability to be chosen to serve God. That's the reason I'm here, and there is no other reason. And therefore, as we will go into details about the difference between Torah and mitzvot, we will see it in a much brighter light. The rabbi is going to really take it dissected. By the way, this is a very long chapter. It's a chapter that's 4 or 5 times in a regular chapter, because the rabbi is going to dissect every detail of what we just spoke. This is in general the rabbi is getting into. So number one, realize that I'm here for the universe. I'm here to serve God, not for my own benefit. That's number one. Number two, The rabbi says to us that connecting or serving God is through, of course, study Torah, mitzvot, but there is a much, much greater way, and that is through the mundane day-to-day life in which I follow God's commandments. So I don't have to separate myself from the universe to connect to God, but rather go to work, have relationship, connect and socialize, be on with the public, be out there and do it the way God wants. That's how you serve God. That's why he says that when I eat a healthy meal, or when I have an opportunity to eat a non-kosher meal and I push it away and I said no, what I did is I served God. I improved the universe because you know what? And the rabbi went into detail. That's the third point. The rabbi is saying that the universe was created with three major categories. One, the pure, holiness, greatness, close to God. The other one, the opposite, impurity, the opposite of God. And the third, which is majority of our life, the gray area. The gray can be utilized for holiness or pulled down to uncleanness. So if I earn a living and I went and abused the money, I earned a living, I made money. The money is in the gray area. I am going and I'm using it for abusive matter. I buy something that's not kosher. I bribe somebody. There are many ways. I take the gray area and I give vitality to the impure energy. Where does the impure energy in this universe derive energy? If it's the opposite of God, where does it get energy? Me and you, when we sin. That's why when a man dies, the body becomes impure, because all the evil forces latch onto it like a jar of honey that's emptied out. We studied it in the Torah portion of last week of Chukat. In other words, vitality and energy for impurity, it's not real. If I lie, darkness does not, it's not a reality. It's devoid of holiness. So what happens when I switch the light in a dark room? I don't have to push away darkness. The reason darkness exists is as long as I am providing it energy. How? When I sin, I take energy that could have been elevated and I take it down. What happens if everybody at one moment did only mitzvot, took all the energy existing and turned it into holiness? It chokes the impurity and makes it gone. It's totally gone. Mashiach time. What's the idea of Mashiach time? That there is no evil. Anytime somebody tells you there is a Messiah, a Savior, first thing I ask, how come there is so much trouble in the universe? Haven't you heard of tsunamis and earthquakes? All that is a byproduct of the evil forces. What happens if you choke it, you don't give it energy? It's gone. It's like switching the light in the room. It doesn't have to hide somewhere. It's just non-existing. What happens to the gray area? If there is total lightness, then I am going to perform all good. So I'm going to eat the same meal, the same steak, and I'm going to enjoy the coffee, and I'm going to go into a restaurant and have a good time, and I'm going to go on a cruise, and I'm going to go on vacation. But all that would be for the service of God, because there will be no choice anymore. You won't have the ability to pull it down and do something that's not kosher. Did you understand that point? Now let's talk about the next point. I shared with you the 4 stages that are part of what I just shared. Stage number 1, every single mitzvah counts. For me, if I cannot study all the Torah, the entire portion of the week, study one verse, you study Torah. If I cannot buy a bookcase of books, buy one book, keep one Jewish book in the house. The Rebbe says, I cannot afford mezuzah in every door. My partner don't let me. One mezuzah, one mitzvah at a time is what counts. It's a complete project. Then realize that as human being, if you improve yourself, you become a much better person. The third is it will affect the entire Jewish people. And the fourth is it will impact the entire universe. What happens when the entire universe is impacted by Jewish people conducting themselves properly? The universe will become when Mashiach arrives. So the entire universe will continue, except there will be no evil. Nobody will desire to do evil. No one will be jealous. No one will look for honor. Everybody will be selfless, because that's the purpose by which God created us. Ali, did you understand so far?
It's all about you.
The rabbi is going to get into the idea of 600,000 souls. And let me give you an introduction. How many commandments God gave us? 613. Last week, did we talk last time about Torah? How many mitzvot God himself gave us?
2.
2. When did I say it? In this class? Or? All right. So we heard 2. The word Torah translates into 611. Right. So Moshe gave us 611 plus God gave us 2, so it's 613 commandments. The Torah represents 613. In more details, we will discover there is a contradiction or a dichotomy between the two, the study of Torah and the mitzvot, and we'll deal with it in a later class, in this chapter. But the rabbi is going to talk about 600,000 souls. So a very short introduction. If I take, there are 10 utterances that God used, 10 sfirot. Anybody heard of the 10 attributes that God used to create the universe? 3 of them are intellectual, chokhmah bin adat. But the emotions, from the emotions, the 7th one is not to create, it's to rest. Shabbat. Shabbat is from the 7 days. Shabbat is out, correct? Malchut. What does God do on Shabbat? He rests. That's no creativity. The 7, Malchut, royalty, kingdom, has nothing of its own. It's totally nullified. That's why the greatest trait of a king in Judaism is totally humble, completely humble. The greatest king Jewish people had is Moshe. What's so unique about Moshe? He was the most humble man from all the men of the face of the earth. Why God chose David? He was treated as unfortunately, a strange son among his brothers. They claimed that his mother had him from a different father. If anybody is familiar with the story, there was a movie, there is a series coming out now on television about that. Ki nochri haiti livnei imi. King David says in Book of Psalm, I was a stranger to all my mother's brother. He was one of 7. He was the youngest. And when Samuel comes to Ishai, to his father's house, to anoint a king, because God says in this house, they didn't even put him as a candidate. Samuel touched one son. They all were Ivy League graduates, very famous. Each one, God said, no. Finally, it's in the Bible. It says to Ishai, do you have another son? He says, oh yeah, I have another one. He's a shepherd. I forgot about him. And he says, bring him in. And brought him in. The brother says he cannot be the king. He's not like us. He's a simple man. And God says, no, that's the one, because he was the most humble man at the time from the Jewish people. Malchut does not create. Malchut receives everything and shares. Is that clear? Did I clear the 7th one? Now let's talk about 6 days of creation. What are the basic colors? How many colors, the most basic?
7.
3.
Smaller. RGB.
Roy cheated 7.
Huh?
Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. 7.
If you shrink it farther, you'll come to 3.
She could even more, it comes to 1.
It's true. But from 3, red, green, blue. If you take those 3, How many different swatches can you come up with? Endless, right? How many can the naked eye see? Anybody? Anybody? 256. That's the maximum you can see.
256?
Yeah. How many? I'm a graphic designer by hobby, so I know. How many the screen can see, a computer can detect? Millions. Millions. So my eye, that's the difference between printed versus screen. Because if I put on a printed sheet of paper two different spots of red that the computer will extinguish its two separate ones, the eye cannot see it. You won't see it. Our eye can see 256. Please trust me on that. You can Google it. And the computer, the screen, as we get more advanced with technology, what's the advancement? That is able to sense different colors up to millions of different spots. Back to our discussion here. The human, the soul that God created is split into 6. And those 6 is split into times 10. 6 times 10 is how much? 60. And those 60 is split to 10. How many 60 times 10 is? 600. And those 600 is split into 10. How many is that? 6,000. And then it's split in times 10 is how much is this? 60,000 and then 600. How many multiplication did I have? From 6 to 600,000. How many times? To 60,
6.
to 600, to 6,000, to 60,000, to 600,000. It's called multiplication by 5, right, Mr. Algebra? How do you call it in math? What do you call it? When it's time 5, you go 5 times. Multiply by 5. In other words, you start with 6, you multiply by 10, but you do it 5 times, you go by 10. There is a word for it. In Hebrew, the power. In Hebrew, we call it bechezkat chamesh. In other words, you start with 6 times 10 is 1 time, times 10 is 2, times 10, 5 times. So from 6, you multiply by 10, 5 times, you get how much? 600,000. Is that clear?
Yeah.
The word Israel. Now, let's go back. Why did I say that to you? You heard the name of Havaya, Yud K Vav K? Huh? Yud K Vav K is exactly what I just told you. The Vav is 6, corresponding to the 6 days of creation, times Yud. Yud is 10, right? The first Yud.
Yeah.
And then you multiply it 5 times. Hey and hey is 5 times of itself. So you'll get up. God's name actually hints to 600,000. Harry, you lost it?
No, I found the 72 letter.
Yud K Vav K.
It's not about God's name.
God has many names. I'm talking about the names that he used to create the universe and the way he relates to us. Yud K Vav K actually talks about how do we reach to 600,000. You start with a Vav, 6, 6. So one soul is split into 6. Then each one is split by 10, so it's 60. Then a second time split by 10, a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth time. You end up with 600,000 souls. So the Jewish people are called Israel. What did you find, Elizabeth?
What you just said,
What did I say?
the youth, okay.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you are looking for the name of a Jewish person, it's Israel, right? Israel. Israel is acronym Yesh Shishim Ribo Otiyot LaTorah. There are 600,000 letters to the Torah, corresponding to the 600,000 Jewish souls. So every soul has a letter in the Torah. Now, we have many more than 600,000 men. In fact, when God gave us the Torah, there were 600,000 men between the age of 20 and 60. There were older men, there were younger men, there were women, there were a lot more. There were about 2 or 3 million, between 2 and 3 million Jewish people. The 600,000 are general souls that split into many other smaller souls. Did I make myself clear? Yes, Leon. Just a minute, Leon.
Maybe not correctly, but what I'm questioning is who K and about K, aren't they referred to as the revealed world?
Yes.
The hidden world and the revealed
It's revealed God.
God and the hidden God.
Right.
Okay. Is there any connection there with the 600,000?
No.
Okay.
That the Jewish souls came directly from Havaya, not Elohim. Actually, it's a point that I've made here that I skipped. It says, when Mashiach will come, God will reveal himself to the name of Havaya. Right now, Asher bara Elohim la'asot. If you look in the creation of the universe, always God's name is Elohim. Elohim is 86. Nature in Hebrew, Ateva, is 86. So God's name Elohim is a concealment of godliness as the way it clothes itself within nature. Havaya is above nature. And therefore, when Mashiach will come, Havaya will prevail and we'll see godliness. So Havaya directly connects with the Jewish people. Does that address your question? Linda,
Is this, you don't want to get into this, it's okay, but is this what you're talking about related to the shattering of the vessel?
yes, but that's a different,
But that's what.
the sparks is a different discussion. Right now, we want to talk about coming close to God and realizing our purpose in life. And I shared with you that my purpose in life is not my godly soul, but rather the universe. And I shared with you that there are 4 stages. 1 act, my existence, the Jewish people and the entire universe. Now the Rabbi is going to talk about how together, combine all souls, will elevate the universe and make it a complete. So I don't want to talk about, but this is the very reason of the sparks that fell down that we need to elevate. But it's a different track. I don't want to. Harry?
600,000 or 603,000?
600,000.
That's it? Not 3,000
No.
additional we count?
No. 600,000. I'm surprised you don't ask another question. If Israel is an acronym, yes, Shishim, there are 600,000 letters, but there is not 600,000 letters to the Torah. 304, 324. Almost half. So different explanations to it. I don't want to get to it. I want to stop right here. Next week, I want to share with you a parable from Reb Mendel Futterfass, a very famous Chassid. He was in jail, and they used to spend time by sharing stories. One time, one of the inmates, prisoner, that's how they spent time. They didn't have a summer camp jail like they have here in America or in Israel, that you do get graduation and you go to college and in jail. So everyone will share their life story and experience. One of them was a diver. And he says that whenever a large ship sinks in the ocean, how do they bring it back up if they wanted to bring up the Russians? Huh?
Fill it with air.
How do you fill it with air? How do you float it? You right on target. He says they would go, balloons, thank you. They would go, a bunch of divers, and circling the entire boat, the ship, finding hooks, different hooks and areas where they can attach something to it. And then they would, after they scanned, so to say, the entire ship, one day they would assign many, many divers, each to a particular hook, and they would come down with small balloons, each one with one balloon, and attach it to the hook. But by the time they were done, if there would be 3,000 or 5,000 balloons, they all together will bring the float. So David, how do you know that?
I've heard somewhere.
So I heard it in yeshiva.
He could not.
So, says Reb Mendel, he learned from it that how the Rebbe, when he sent Chabad shluchim, emissaries around the globe, and God, when he sends people around, you ask yourself, what am I doing here? Because we need to find a hook and attach a balloon. Now you ask, one balloon, how can it lift a 50 ton or 500 ton? The answer is, if you do it, and I do it, and he does it, and everybody else, at a given day, it will all float. That's what the rabbi is going to talk about, the 300,000 souls that were sent to the universe, who we were sent to as divers, to hook balloons, to connect balloons to any hook or any imperfectness in the ship that can attach itself to a balloon. Next week, we'll delve in and continue on to other topics. Thank you very much.
The